All right. Welcome to the Kiali and Jaeger Sprint 39 sprint demo. We're going to go through some slides just to give you some highlights of what we've done in this last 3-week sprint. And then we've got a couple of demos to follow. At the end, we've got a short one by myself, then Javi will do one, and Pavel will do another one for Jaeger. So let's get started. This is just to let you know that we track all of our project work per sprint in GitHub using the Github Projects feature. And you can always get there by going to the Kiali repo or org, and underneath projects, you'll find our most recent one for your enjoyment. What did we do in the last few weeks? We did a lot of bug fixing and so forth. I won't go into those types of things. We'll focus a little bit more on features. So one of the big things going on is the imminent release of Istio 1.6, and we've been working to produce Kiali version 1.18 at the end of this sprint, which will be the one to support that and be packaged with it when you, for people that are installing 1.6 fresh, and then go to Kiali, it'll be 1.18. Some of the things involved there, there's been changed types. We need to update those for the proper config editing within Kiali. There's also new validation work that was put in to support the changes that they've got in the new version. There's been changes like the removal of the policy CRD, things like that. Basically, a variety of work for compatibility and to take advantage of the changes in Istio 1.6. We've also improved some of the handling of their new V2 telemetry, which was introduced in 1.5 and the default in 1.6. And the 1.18 release will be out by the end of today. Actually, today, at the end of today, you'll have the 1.18.1 release. Some of the other features that have been going in, for the custom dashboards, there's a nice new feature which allows you to configure multiple metrics on the same charts. This is, to give you a much better ability to correlate views and correlate information. In this slide here, you can see that we've got stadium info and UI info on top of each other. So if you look at the legend, you've got, for example, your median value for stadium and your median value for the UI, and you can see those lines on the variety of charts for comparison to see where things are in sync and where they may be spiking together. Nice new feature. We continue to do some work on looking at workload logs or pod logs. So in here you can see that you've got the ability to select your pod. We now have added the ability to do a tailing automatic, so you can change this refresh value here. So in this case, every 10 seconds your logs are going to refresh. You're automatically placed at the bottom so that you're basically tailing like you would expect, although you can scroll back into the history of the logs. We are also introduced horizontal scrolling so that you've got a cleaner look. You can see your timestamps on the left side without any wrapping and so forth. And we've added a toggle here which allows you a side-by-side view, which is what we're showing in this particular slide. Or if you toggle it off, you'll have a stacked view. Depends whichever way you pretend to like it. In overview, we've added an idle status. You can see this sort of icon here with the dash. So this is telling you that one of your applications is idle, which is basically an indication that you're running 0 pods, but on purpose. So if you scale down to 0 on purpose, you don't want to consider that an error. In the past, that was reported as a problem, and now we're acknowledging the fact that that's an idle situation, so slightly more information. I'm going to give you a quick demo of what we've done on Kiali.io. Can someone tell me whether you can see the Kiali.io? Did that share correctly?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, great. So now if you go to Kiali.io, you're going to obviously see the most recent information there. But if you click into documentation, you can now see that we have an archive. Before I show that, I wanted to note that we've updated the documentation with custom dashboards. This used to be known as runtime dashboards, which really didn't cover everything that was possible here. We wanted to make sure that people understood that the ability to do custom dashboards is a bit more broad than what was originally called runtimes. So the documentation and the naming has been updated in this section. If you go to archive, we're now doing version docs on the website. So starting at v10 of Kiali and going all the way up to 1.17, which will become 1.18 soon after this sprint, you can get to that versioned documentation. You can see by clicking on 1.17, I'm now looking at the documentation as it was then on that release. And you can actually see that it's called runtimes monitoring because we just updated this recently, just to give you an idea of what's going on there. And then if you go back to the top level, you'll jump back to the most recent stuff. So you go to documentation, archive, choose your version, and that will put you in that view for the things that are underneath the documentation. You want to access it this way. All right. The next demo is going to be done by Davi, and so go ahead and take over the share.
Thanks, Greg. Okay, can you see my screen? No. See my screen? Sorry.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay. Okay, so I'd like to introduce a couple of things that is going to be released today after the at the end of the day. So the first thing is that we've introduced here kind of an icon that that shows you the status of the Istio components. For example, if we have, as it have here, this is just for example. So I have the Istio tracing component that is not healthy, right? So the goal of this feature is that we want to provide to the user a quick signal if Istio components are not working well. For example, let me delete the Istio ingress. Okay, if I'm, for example, just for demo, right? So if I'm deleting the Istio ingress, then I have another like a red light here saying, okay, your ingress is not healthy. So imagine you have tons of traffic in the ingress, so your ingress is like behaving a little bit buggy or overload, right? So here you can quickly see what is happening. So right now the pod is back working, so it disappeared. Once all the components of Istio are working well, this icon disappears, so you no longer see any extra signal or noise in this site. And that's one feature. The next feature is regarding the Istio 1.6. We added the new objects, as they are the peer authentication, request authorization, and workload entries. And yeah, but the first one I'm going to focus is the peer authentication. What we've done is we've adapted the peer authentication and all the MTLS mechanism to work with the auto MTLS, right? I just create a peer authentication, ensuring that all the traffic in the mesh has to be in MTLS strict. So right now, just adding only one item, because I have this Istio installation using the MTLS, auto MTLS. Now what I can see is that I have this previous icon that we had before, but now it works with the auto MTLS, right? So here it says that all the configurations, all the traffic here uses MTLS, right? So if we go to security, we should see that that all the, okay, right. So we should see that here every edge use MTLS, right? So here, and also you can go to where we created this peer authentication and see that we introduced both items here. Also, there's the request authentication, as you can see here. So you can adjust it, you can edit or delete it if you want. Yep. And also we've worked with the workload entries, right? So here also you can also list and edit and remove these CRDs. Yeah, in general, related to these features is that we, as Jay mentioned, we adapted to Istio 1.6, but we have some room for the all objects for users running Istio 1.5 or 1.4, running, for example, the policies or the mesh policies over there. Related to the validations, also you can see that in the Istio system here, using the streak, the validations are adapted to the auto MTLS. So this one is no longer telling you that you need a destination rule, right? Because the main difference between auto MTLS and normal plain MTLS is that you need a destination rule for enabling all the clients to use MTLS. In the auto MTLS, it's not necessary. So here we don't have the validation. Although if you are running without auto MTLS, here you will see the validation. And that's it from my side, Jay.
Excellent. Good stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Pavel from the Jaeger team is going to do a demo of the OpenTelemetry collector in the Jaeger operator. So take it away, Pavel.
Okay, so hello everybody. Can you see my screen? The blue jeans right now?
Yes.
Okay, so first thing I would like to announce Jaeger release 1.18. Released it yesterday, and it includes a couple of new features and also a lot of bug fixes. But however, what I would like to show you today is something different. So in the last couple of sprints, we are trying to integrate Jaeger backend components with OpenTelemetry collector. And so what we are doing basically is that we are rebasing Jaeger backend components based on OpenTelemetry collector, and we are adding their Jaeger-specific functionality. So there is this blog post which basically describes all the changes and also our roadmap regarding this initiative. So feel free to go through it and read in detail what we are planning to do. So what I want to show you today is an example how you can use Jaeger OpenTelemetry component or collector on Kubernetes or OpenShift. So we have already integrated the kind of OpenTelemetry configuration capability into Jaeger CR. And in this example, you can see the Jaeger CR that will deploy simple production deployment with query, collector, and agent components. So what I added here is basically this this thing, this couple of nodes, and when you want to use the OpenTelemetry collector with the current Jaeger operator, you have to configure the only just one thing, and that's the health check port, because the Jaeger uses health check on different ports. So to make it work, this is mandatory to do. And to show you more examples, I added here also OpenTelemetry specific features, which is, for example, the processors. And the processor is something that runs inside the collector and can somehow process the data, change the data, or delete something from the data that you are collecting. So what I did here, I added the attribute processor that adds a new tag with username, username key, and value with my name. And then this processor has to be added to so-called service or pipeline. So I just specify the processor name in the pipeline, and that's it. It's installed. One thing to notice here is that the health check, I'm not adding the health check into the service, because what we did in Jaeger is that we by default we install predefined set of OpenTelemetry components into the collector. So you don't have to configure it manually. So there is already health check, there is already receiver, there is already exporter, which is something different to what upstream OpenTelemetry collector does. If you start just the upstream collector, it will fail because you have to configure all the components yourself. In Jaeger, we made it quite simple for users to use it, because you just start it and everything is pretty much there, pre-configured to be used. And to make it also very, very simple to migrate from legacy Jaeger components to OpenTelemetry, we built 3 components. Basically, for every Jaeger component, we build a new OpenTelemetry version of it, which contains the configuration that is related to this component. So in this case, it's collector. So the collector will contain the receivers, but also exporters to a specific storage backend. So okay, I have already created this CR in my Minikube cluster. You can just have a look at the console. And we see there is this collector. And yeah, it's running the OpenTelemetry version. And we see the configuration that was in the CR in this node is basically exported into config map and is injected into arguments. Okay, so let's have a look at how the attributes processor work. So I will just generate some data in this demo application, and then in the Jaeger UI, we can query the data and see if attribute was added to tags. So here we can see the username key with Powell value. Okay, this is basically everything what I have today. If you have any questions or suggestions regarding the configuration, let us know.
Great, thank you, Pavel. That is our presentation for today. If there's any questions that you want answered right now, go ahead. Otherwise, we will end the demo. All right, thank you very much. We'll see you again in 3 weeks for Sprint 40.